Hey, what's up guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is October 18th, 2020. So I'm entitling this video in part October Surprise because the events I'm about to detail are expected prior to the date of October 31st, 2020. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a nuclear terror whistleblower who foiled a nuclear terror attack upon Super Bowl XLV in Dallas, Texas back on February 6th of 2011, and after which I applied for political asylum in Switzerland where I was living at the time, and I was denied not only asylum but the right to apply for asylum because the information about the foiled attack would have gone into the public record, which the CIA did not want. And at the time I did not realize until a later date that the reason why my plea for political asylum was rejected by Switzerland is because Switzerland harbors the one and only CIA, which is located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland. So in short, I'm making this video because it's 99.999% certain that CIA headquarters is going to trigger an irreversible chain of events prior to October 31st, 2020, designed to turn the world upside down as we know it. So obviously, by exposing this most heinous plot by the CIA, it's highly likely that I would be terminated in some form or fashion by the date of October 31st, 2020. So exactly what the CIA has planned by the date of October 31st, 2020, Halloween, is obviously not known, but it's basically designed to hijack the U.S. democratic political process and or trigger World War III. So exactly what we can expect is obviously, like I said, not known, but it's highly likely that the CIA will stage a Trump dissolution of presidency event or a Biden dissolution of candidacy event by this particular date. It's also highly likely that the CIA will stage an Obama military coup, possibly in the aftermath of a national emergency. So obviously, if the CIA is in fact planning these events, which I'm going to detail further in just a second, it's highly likely that I would be neutralized in some form or fashion prior to Halloween. So exactly what the CIA plans to stage by this particular date is obviously not known, but it's highly likely that the CIA would stage some sort of a cyber attack, possibly resulting in a prolonged blackout, a biological attack, possibly smallpox in nature, a chemical attack, possibly VX or Novichok in nature, which may be blamed on ISIS or Russia, nuclear terror attacks, possibly 9/11 style. If you recall, back on August 4th, which was Obama's birthday, the CIA staged this nuclear attack in Beirut, Lebanon. Check out my website, 911truther.org, to check out that report. The CIA may also stage some sort of earth-changing natural disaster, tsunami, earthquake, volcanic eruption, or tornado, possibly resulting in the man-made eruption of Mount St. Helens in Washington State, the Yellowstone supervolcano, or the volcanoes in Iceland. It's also highly likely that the CIA will stage some sort of an attack or invasion by China, Iran, Russia, North Korea, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Al-Qaeda, or ISIS, specifically to trigger World War III and or assassinate me under the guise of a random attack of some kind. That being said, the most likely earth-changing event expected by the date of October 31st, 2020 is that the CIA stages some sort of a man-made asteroid attack. So back on December 21st, 2012, I published a report about the man-made comet, otherwise known as ISON, and a day later, NASA officially declared this particular asteroid dead, and that's because this is a man-made event. If you want to go to my blog, you can check it out, all the evidence about this particular false flag event. And because NASA's Near-Earth Object Program at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory is constantly fabricating new asteroids. The name of the asteroids slated to strike Earth prior to the date of October 31st is obviously not known, but the most likely is Comet 2020 F8, otherwise known as SWAN, Comet 2020 F3, otherwise known as Neowise, Interstellar Earth Object 1I 2017 VI, otherwise known as Oumuamua, or Asteroid Bennu. If you've been following the news in the last 24 hours, the famed Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's supposedly an expert on all spatial events, has stated that there will be an asteroid strike on Earth prior to the election on November 3rd. And this was first reported back on August 23rd, 2020 by CNN, by the report entitled "Asteroid Heading Our Way by Election Day." And that's because the CIA is desperately trying to hijack the American political process prior to the date of October 31st or November 3rd, but via a man-made asteroid attack, after which the CIA will unleash an unprecedented wave of earthquakes and tsunami attacks across the globe. There's also 42,000 SpaceX satellites, which will be turned into projectiles targeting various locations around the Earth. And this is designed to sell the notion of some sort of asteroid or comet storm accompanying the asteroid attacks. We can expect two of them. One is expected to hit the mainland United States, most likely in the Bible Belt, and the second will predictably hit the Gulf of Mexico. A few years ago, they built this massive oil well in the Gulf of Mexico, and this is basically, it appears that this is basically the structure by which they will put in millions of tons of explosives to sell the notion of some sort of asteroid attack in the Gulf of Mexico, which will obviously cause a wave of tsunamis targeting all the cities on the Gulf. So in the event that the CIA is unable to execute the cyber attacks, blackouts, biological attacks, chemical attacks, nuclear attacks, natural disasters, foreign invasions, or asteroid strikes by the date of October 31st, they will likely resort to Plan B, which is to hijack the American political process in order to install Obama as a de facto dictator. So, as you recall, back in May of 2016, I published a report entitled "Obama 666, Will America's First Dictator Please Stand Up?" And so basically, Obama is a global dictator in waiting, but they'll start with the United States first. So, it's highly likely that the CIA will institute Obama in the aftermath of a Trump dissolution, a presidency event, or some sort of national emergency. So obviously, if Obama hijacks the presidency without a national emergency, the coup will appear much more draconian in nature. So exactly how the CIA will institute Obama by the date of October 31st is obviously not known, but it's highly likely that Trump or Biden will suffer some sort of an assassination event. Back on September 19th, Trump received a ricin package, which is poison. On August 10th, there was a shooting outside the White House while Trump was giving a press conference. And back on May 1st of 2019, a man was convicted in federal court of making death threats against Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., as well as Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And back on June 18th of 2016, the CIA staged a fake Trump assassination event at a Trump event in Reno, Nevada. And these four events were designed to foreshadow that Trump will be targeted with assassination at a later date. So it's imperative to note at this point again that the CIA may use part or all of this video to induce some sort of mass panic or stampede at a Trump event or a Biden event. In the event that Biden is targeted for assassination, the CIA will likely blame this QAnon conspiracy, which was fabricated by the CIA. And this basically, one of the tenets of this QAnon conspiracy is that the CIA is trying to stage an Obama coup, which I just mentioned, which is actually correct. And then the other part is that Biden and a number of high-ranking politicians in the U.S. government are child molesters. And so this might, the CIA plans to scapegoat members of this conspiracy for the impending assassination of Biden. In the event that either Biden or Trump are targeted for assassination, the CIA will likely blame some mentally ill person when in fact it was a targeted assassination by the CIA. We saw this with the John Lennon assassination. We saw this with the Robert Kennedy Jr. assassination. Or they'll blame Russia, as we saw with the John F. Kennedy assassination. In that Lee Harvey Oswald spent time in Russia and he was a former military guy, etc., etc. It's also highly likely that Trump or Biden would suffer some sort of death event, possibly medical related. Trump, as I predicted many months ago, that the CIA was going to infect Trump with COVID-19. So it's highly likely that he or Biden would suffer a COVID-19 fatality. They could die in a helicopter crash, a plane crash, or a helicopter or plane may be struck by an Iranian, Chinese, or Russian missile specifically designed to assassinate a head of state or a potential head of state and trigger World War III at the same time. There's also the possibility that Trump or Biden's motorcade could suffer a timely accident, crash, or attack by an unknown domestic terror group. In respect to a potential Trump resignation, the most likely scenarios, which I've detailed on my blog, 911truther.org, ad nauseum, is that Trump is forced to resign under the guise of spending time with the family, under the guise of not wanting to produce his tax results, under the guise of a COVID-19 fatality or infection. As you may recall, Trump, as well as his wife Melania, as well as his son Barron, all allegedly contracted COVID-19, so he may resign from the presidency to spend more time with his family or to recover from this particular disease. There's also the possibility that the CIA will arrest Trump or force him to resign for alleged links to the alleged Jeffrey Epstein murder, and or arrest Trump or force him to resign for allegedly having sex with an underage girl. So that's also a possibility. In respect to Biden, it's highly likely that from the date of October 18th to October 31st, the CIA will stage some sort of switcheroo coup. And this is whereby, because the Republican and Democratic parties are private corporations, they can switch their candidates at any time without the approval of the public. So it's highly likely that prior to the date of October 31st, that Biden will resign and Michelle Obama will become the Democratic candidate for president against Trump. There's also the possibility that the CIA would switch Biden out with Joseph P. Kennedy, a senator from Massachusetts. In respect to Trump, although this is highly unlikely, they did try this right before the Republican National Convention to switch out Trump with George P. Bush, which is the son of Jeb Bush. It's also highly likely that by the date of October 31st, that the CIA will stage some sort of major terror event in the United States. As I mentioned, a foreign attack or invasion, some sort of autonomous zone by Black Lives Matter or Antifa, specifically to trigger a national emergency in the United States, which would basically hijack the democratic political process and be used to suspend the election or to institute Obama as president or de facto dictator as a temporary president. In respect to yours truly, obviously, if the CIA is planning any of the aforementioned events by the date of October 31st, I must be neutralized prior because I have detailed these events and warned of these events for years. And so the CIA, the last thing they want to do, because I've exposed their headquarters, is to make me and my predictions prophetic in nature. So obviously, in the event that they are planning on doing these, I must be terminated in some form or fashion by the date of October 31st in some form or fashion. So I'm going to detail those briefly. Firstly, it's highly likely that me or my cat Nike will be targeted in some form or fashion. Back on May 25th, 2019, I was targeted along with my cat. I was attacked by a man who pulled out a knife and tried to cut her leash, after which obviously I would have probably lost her or she would have been run over. There's also highly likely that the CIA will attack my person. So since living in this particular location, I have been punched 3 times, spit on 3 times, pissed on once, hit by a flying object once, purposely run into once, and basically I've been assaulted numerous times, roughly once a month since I moved to this particular location. And so it's highly likely that the CIA would attack me again. So basically what they're trying to do is to force me out of town, specifically so that they can assassinate me in some form or fashion or kidnap me and frame me for crimes I did not commit. It's also highly likely that I would be assassinated in some form or fashion, most likely under the guise of an accident. So such as a helicopter crash, a plane crash, drowning accident, tsunami or earthquake related event, being run over, a vehicular manslaughter attack, or that they would suicide me most likely while using the restroom when I'm out of the public eye. It's also possible that I would be murdered under the guise of a COVID-19 fatality, but the most likely event is basically that the CIA arrests me for crimes I did not commit, and then within 24 to 48 hours stage one of the aforementioned earth-changing events such as a asteroid strike, biological attack, chemical attack, nuclear attack, or some sort of foreign attack and invasion by China, Russia, Iran, etc. And then my assassination would be swept underneath the rug. And it's highly likely that in the immediate aftermath of my assassination, arrest for crimes that I did not commit, and subsequent assassination, which will likely be suicide assassination in nature, the CIA will target key members of my family, which basically are links to all my friends and family that I've known my whole life, who would actually be responsible to investigate my death. So exactly what the CIA plans to arrest me for is obviously not known, but in the last 7 days, the CIA has basically tried to arrest me for committing arson, which would most likely be drone-induced, and arrest me for child porn. And the reason why is these 2 particular scenarios is that the CIA can completely fabricate the evidence. In the case of arson, they would produce a deep fake video of which basically, if you're not familiar, they can basically take your face and then make a video of you. Just Google deepfake Obama, and you can see this video of Obama saying all these things, and it's basically fake. So they would arrest me for allegedly committing some sort of arson attack, or they would claim after using the public library that I accessed child porn or something to that effect, and then they would provide a baseless arrest warrant, and then I would be subsequently murdered while in custody, most likely via suicide, after which they would target key members of my family and then stage these earth-changing events to sweep it underneath the rug. So that is the most likely neutralization scenario prior to October 31st, 2020. It's also possible that I may suffer a drone strike, possibly after being arrested for crimes I did not commit or kidnapped, which is precisely why the CIA controlled me for explosives while sitting outside of a bus stop in Zurich, Switzerland back on October 16, 2016, was to frame me for some sort of explosive-related attack at another date. There's also the realistic possibility that the CIA will stage some sort of an Islamic attack in this particular part of the world as CIA media and political cover for my targeted assassination for being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Lastly, there's a possibility, although unlikely, that the CIA would try to institutionalize me under the guise of a wellness check. In the event that I am arrested for crimes I did not commit, obviously, like I mentioned, suicide assassination is the most likely scenario, but they've created a number of different ones. Asphyxiation, like having a spit bag put over my head, or dying via chokehold, or the CIA may claim that I tried to grab the arresting intelligence officer's weapon and therefore they had to use deadly force against me. So for the public record, firstly, I will never ever commit suicide under any circumstance ever, and any so-called evidence to the contrary should now and forever be considered patently false. Secondly, I am a 43-year-old college graduate who has never committed a crime in my entire life, so obviously I would never do so. So in the event that I die in any form or fashion by the date of October 31st, 2020, know the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is ultimately responsible. And post-arrest, like I said, they will most likely target key members of my family, possibly under the guise of, I don't know if you've been paying attention in the news, but there's been scores of scores of wildfires in the states of Washington and Oregon, which my greater family lives. So they may be assassinated under the guise of a wildfire or under the guise of a COVID-19 fatality. So again, it's imperative to note that because the CIA is planning these events, and because this video is what stands between them committing these events, this quote-unquote October surprise, by the date of October 31st, 2020, it's highly likely that the CIA would use all or part of this video to induce some sort of mass panic or stampede, possibly at some sort of public event, in order to create the fraudulent pretext to arrest me for allegedly causing said panic or mass stampede. So obviously, for the record, this video is made in good faith, and so obviously I have good intentions and I'm not being reckless with my words. It's just that the CIA has to basically, they have a small window now, less than 2 weeks in the month of October, to execute these particular events. So it's highly likely that they would get very desperate and try to get me out of the way with this for allegedly sparking some sort of mass panic or stampede. So lastly, in the event that any of these events which I have detailed come to fruition, I kindly ask that you download this video, share it on various social media platforms, notify the law enforcement community, notify the military community, notify the intelligence community, and as well notify the Democratic and Republican political parties, starting with the local chapters in your particular area, so that we can prevent these horrific tragedies which the CIA is planning by the date of October 31st from coming to fruition. So anyways, thank you for bearing with me, and I'm praying for a peaceful October, and obviously your thoughts and prayers are needed during this time. Peace.